Welcome to Women's Brew, where women talk about beer and maybe wrestling. This week, we wish Top Rope the happiest of birthdays. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Oh, yeah.
And we're two beer loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us.
So, Neil, do you want to tell us a bit about who you are, what your role is, and what brewery you come from, and a bit about them?
Yes, I'm Neil from Top Rope Brewing, based in Bootle in Liverpool. I'm one of the directors, one of the founders, along with Ben Jackson, who is our head brewer. I'm the head guy that, my job is to basically chat shit and sell beer to people, which I think I've done quite well, seeing as I'm now celebrating 5 years of having done it professionally, which is incredible to think. We are Top Rope Brewing, so we are a wrestling-based brewery. So 99% of what we do is based around our love of wrestling, predominantly from kind of the 90s, that kind of, the Attitude Era along there. But then also over the past couple of years, our sort of reignited love of the, sports entertainment or wrestling, whatever you want to call it. And the way we enjoy things nowadays from watching the likes of AEW or from a few other bits and pieces. But that's basically where we kind of stick to our guns, and we are very, very happy to die upon the hill of wrestling because it is a fantastic sport to be a part of and watch. As I say, we've just turned 5 years old as of the 6th of November this year, which is just incredible. I still to this day pinch myself and think that I've been doing this job for 5 years now, which is baffling. It's amazing. Early this year in January, we moved from a site in North Wales where we were for 3 years, and we're now at a new place which is physically three times the size. We've doubled our capacity. Which when we started 5 years ago was in a shed in a back garden, brewing 100 litres of beer at a time. And it was genuinely like, we never thought we'd get to the point of having an actual brewery, to the point of expanding it and getting bigger, and having an event where we had over two sittings, we had over 150 people in the brewery to celebrate our birthday with some live music, all the stuff, the 8 special beers that we released on as well. It was just incredible. So that's basically who Top Rope are.
Amazing.
I've got so many more like wrestling based questions as well, but I feel like that's gonna be second part. I'm gonna ask you those questions for sure.
I mean, over the last 2 years, the amount of podcasts that we've done, and it always starts off with like a little bit of. I know the places like you obviously you usually go very heavily into the beer, but with us it's always a case of like a little bit of talk about beer, and then it just very heavily dilutes into wrestling without, and people have to go, oh no, we have to stop that because we've just done too much wrestling. We need to do some more beer.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of wrestling talking.
I was gonna say, I will not promise you like that level of wrestling conversation, because like I know that from my childhood, like growing up in the US, there was definitely like, I don't think you could say WWF anymore because that's like World Wildlife Foundation now, but WWE now is what it is.
That lawsuit has now passed, so the referencing to WWF is now done again. But obviously they prefer WWE because it is their legal and their brand, as it were. So
I feel like that's a fun fact that I didn't know about either. I was just like, you're not allowed. I just remember growing up being like, you're not allowed to say WWF because that's like totally so so I feel like I've just learned something already, and we're like 2 minutes in.
Yeah, it's the pandas. Well, the pandas that legally they had like a statute until a couple of years ago when they couldn't reference it, so they had to like blur out any imagery that was linked to it. Obviously that lawsuit came to an end, and so it's the point when as much as people will now be aware of the differences between them, but they aren't going to get punished if they announce themselves as WWF instead of WWE, basically.
That's crazy, but I can't speak for you, Joe, because I can only speak for myself, but I feel confident you'll probably agree. We wouldn't have that level of wrestling talk because I don't think either of us know enough about wrestling to be able to do that. I know like the main wrestlers and that kind of stuff, but we sort of fell in love with your brewery for a whole other reason, and first of all, happy birthday. I feel like I'll put that out there because I was going to say happy birthday, but I didn't want to cut you off while you were on a roll. And I love the fact that your birthday falls in November because my birthday's at the end of November. And the whole reason why we fell in love with you guys was for the Cold Stone Cream Austin ice cream pale beers that you do. And in November for your birthday, at least last year and this year anyways, you've done a birthday beer for it, which I happen to have here. Unfortunately, we're not drinking them. I'm not drinking them tonight because I'm doing it in solidarity with Jo, who's lost hers. I'm going to have a normal Stone Cold.
You can drink it.
You can drink it. I'm going to save it for my birthday.
Yeah.
To bring the drama onto the podcast, I sent Jo beers because I didn't want to ask Neil to send them separately, and Parcel Force lost them. So I really hope whoever it is, you're not listening to this. If you are listening to this, at least put in an order for some more Top Rope beers when you see how good they are. So yeah. The Stone Cold, keep calling it Stone Cold, the Cold Stone Cream Austin. Have you had that beer from the beginning since you opened up the brewery, or is it something that sort of came along further down the line?
It came along a bit further down the line. It wasn't until about maybe 6 to 9 months, I think, because we definitely brewed it originally in the shed in the back garden. And I will point out that the original version of it wasn't vegan friendly, unlike all of them nowadays. Because we were still very much home brewers. We didn't have the grand scheme of becoming an actual sort of proper business. So we were happy to use lactose and all that kind of stuff as well. But the basis of the beer came purely from basically Ben getting drunk. It was a case of he was drinking in a bar that you probably all are very aware of, their Crafty Beer Company in Liverpool. Officially, according to SEBA, as they won the award, the UK's best independent craft beer bar. So if you're in Liverpool, go and drink at their Crafty Beer Company. Little plug there. But he was in there drinking as whenever we go and get drunk, we always talk about wrestling and all kinds of other crap that falls along. And he was chatting with his friend Mark, who's from New York, and his partner Ruby, who's from Canada. They were talking about all kinds of crap, came out, and then Ruby tried to say Stone Cold Steve Austin and Cold Stone Creamery at the same time. And she ended up spitting out the word Cold Stone Cream Austin. This was at, I dread to think what time it was. It was definitely within licensing hours, which is all I'll say. But I was in bed and just woke up to a text, like 12, 12:30 at night, and just kind of went, all it said was Cold Stone Cream Austin. That was it. Nothing else. No further explanation. Nothing at all. I was just like,
cool, I have so many additional questions. What is this?
It was 12:30. I was just like, nope, back to bed. And then it was the following day that Ben told us the story behind it all. And then he just basically went, that has to be a beer. It has to be an ice cream beer. Based off of one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin's right, 100%. And we just kind of we've played around with it. Obviously, the recipe has changed over the course of the years from us brewing it with lactose to the point when we opted to turn the brewery vegan friendly. I'll point out none of us in the brewery are vegan. It's just an active choice that we've made to ensure that beer is as inclusive as possible for everybody, not only for vegans, but also for those who are lactose intolerant. Obviously, making it lactose free means that there's an even wider range of people that can enjoy the beer as broadly as possible, basically. It's just sort of evolved over the course of time. Obviously, I know that Tori's had, and I'm sure you as well, Joanne, have had an awful lot of the flavours that we do.
Because pretty much every time a new one comes out, you're like, it's just come out, we've just released this, and I'm like, all right, orders in.
We're quite avid.
I'm not going to say it's an easy sale, but
I mean, it's all you have to do is be like, so this one's just come. The cheesecake, like that was an easy one for me when you did that. The lemon
cheesecake. We've done key lime pie. We've done lemon cheesecake.
Key lime was so good.
The key lime was amazing, but the lemon cheesecake was the one that I got because I wanted it, and my husband loves cheesecake, so I knew that putting in another beer order would be risky. But if I sort of said, but there's like cheesecake, he might be less pissed off about it. And I think it worked. I was like, look, but there was cheesecake, and he was like, oh, that sounds nice. So I was like, yes, there you go. We've had the raspberry ripple. So Jo and I so this is what brings back, it's like that first episode that we did the normal one, we did the raspberry ripple, we had the key lime. I think it was those three, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if we recorded all of them, but we definitely had all of them. And they were all just so amazing in their own way. Like they just stood out for different reasons.
I don't think we would have necessarily started the podcast without them. Because it was that batch of beers and then collecting other ice cream pails that made us went, oh, we could do, should we do a podcast? We could do it about these beers. that would be really. And it was those that started it. So
we sort of talked about the podcast, and then I was like, I think I said to Jason along the lines of like, I want to see somebody do a podcast about ice cream pails, because I think I had just stumbled across yours by chance. And I was like, oh my God, ice cream pale, that sounds amazing. I'd love to try that. And I'd love to see somebody talk about that. And then, just the more I was like, who else does ice cream pails? And I kind of started looking into it. And there was a handful here and there. You had probably the biggest range, but there was a few other ones, one here, one there sort of thing. And we were like, actually, we could be the people that just do it. So thanks to you, we probably wouldn't have a podcast.
That's how we started the podcast.
That means the absolute world, the fact that something has been born out of what we do for a living. So I mean, it's great having this kind of a beer sort of in the core range, because as you say, there's a lot of breweries out there that will do them, but they'll either have like one particular flavour, or it's a special release one-off that they'll do here and there. But just the absolute love for this beer that we've had since we first released it has been absolutely insane. Whether it's a combination of it being named after one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, whether it's the fact that it is, I will be very biased here, a very good ice cream pale ale. Obviously, the love for it is just going on and on, which is the reason why we love it, because we can just turn around and go, what ice cream flavour do you want to do next? And we'll just think of whatever random crazy flavours we've done. So, as you say, we've done the raspberry ripple, done mango, key lime pie, we've done, and as we started doing last year, which is where it's coming from, obviously, we knew that it was going to be going into can as opposed to going into keg, because obviously last year we couldn't do what we normally do for our birthday. So we went, okay, let's just do a birthday cake. Let's make a birthday cake ice cream pale ale. So we did the first version, which has become one of our most highly rated beers. People always tell us about it still to this day. It was just a traditional birthday cake, Victoria sponge, basic beer, a little bit of strawberry jam in there, about a kilo of sprinkles, because you can't have a birthday cake without sprinkles. And it went down an absolute treat. And so we decided that this year, when we're celebrating our birthday again, like, okay, well, we have to do another birthday cake. I was like, well, we could do the same version, but people have had that, so I want to do something a little bit different. And they were like, okay, chocolate fudge. Everyone loves a chocolate fudge cake. So we did, and this version had 8 kilos of sprinkles in it.
Oh, wow.
I love that you put actual sprinkles in. Like, that makes me so happy. Actual sprinkles go into it.
Combination of chocolate and rainbow sprinkles as well, I'll point out.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But then still my favourite thing about doing this is we did the chocolate orange version last year as well. But my favourite thing about doing this is the way that it does just fuck with people's heads, because you go, oh, the chocolate beer, great. Hang on, it's pale. What's good? What? Like we actually have people who work in bars who keep getting asked for it on draft, and they pour it and they shit themselves a little bit because they kind of go, oh, I poured the wrong beer. Oh no, I haven't. It is that beer. And it's just brilliant. I love doing that.
It's got to be like the similar effect to when you have like a white stout or something like that, and someone's going like, oh yeah, stout, oh, this will be good, and then they get the glass of it and they're like, what is this? And then they taste it and they're like, what is this? This is like, it's too light colored to taste like this and be a stout. So I feel like it's sort of the exact inverse of that. You've got like chocolate cake that is pale colored, and I appreciate that you do a birthday cake now in November, just because it means that that's like the one that I know that I can now look forward to as my birthday treat. Last year, because of the the first birthday cake one you did, I was like, I'm gonna get that, and now I'm gonna consciously make an effort to get all the cake flavored beers that I can have, so that like I won't have real cake, I'll just have cake flavored beers. And that one was the one that I was like, yeah, that started it, and now I've got to get all the cake ones I can find. So it's like, you're just trendsetting left, right, and centre there. I even bought the chocolate orange, and I hate chocolate orange. Because I was like, now that I know that I love the ice cream pale so much, like that you guys put out, I'm like, I can't miss one. I need to make sure I need to get all the ones that come out as much as I can. And I was like, oh, chocolate orange. Oh, I don't like chocolate orange. I'm gonna get it anyways, though, aren't I? Yeah.
There you go. I'll just to tease you, I'll admit that the new flavour that we're doing at the start of next year is going to be blueberry pancake.
I mean, yeah, like,
yes, please.
Yeah, live into that. That's yeah. I mean, I say it as if I would. It would be a challenge to sell that to me, full stop. I mean, it's pretty easy, or just like a new ice cream pale's coming out, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So I need to just get an ongoing
take my money.
Like, just
you're making it sound like I'm taking advantage of you.
No. It's the fact that you don't even have to tell me specifically. I'll just see it on social media of like, oh, and there's a new one and it's done. Like it's not a hard sell for me at all.
I get text messages. There's a new one coming out. Okay, right.
I think I texted you when the cheesecake one came out, and I was like, I'm getting the cheesecake one. Do you want one? Because it was just, it's phenomenal. I don't know how you do it, because the smell of it properly does smell like vanilla ice cream, like a carton, like you've just taken the lid off of a tub of vanilla ice cream, and then you taste it, and it does have that creamy vanilla. I find can get lost in beer sometimes, especially when it's like a paler beer, but you really nail the ice cream notes on it, where it tastes like it's got just that bit of like freezer burn, if you know what I mean, where it's been in a freezer and it's like that level of ice cream, but it also has that creamy vanilla-ness. I just don't know how you do it. What witchcraft do you use?
It's a combination of several brewing tricks that we've learned over the year. Things like, making sure you've got a nice high mash, therefore you're not going to be losing all of the sugars into it. A combination of using a cracked and a malted dextrin, which is kind of what a lot of brewers have started to use these days in replacement of lacto. And then just loads and loads of vanilla. We use loads of vanilla, but we also use a little bit of aroma as well, just to really help bring it out, because obviously, as you say, the vanilla can get lost in there, so there's a little bit of aroma that gets thrown at the back end, just to ensure that when you open it, you get that massive hit, because still a lot of people don't understand the depth that smell has in terms of taste. So obviously you need to have that initial hit of aroma to really bring it home, and then you can taste it afterwards. So we make sure that that's a key component as to anything that we produce as well.
Yeah, no, it's so impressive, because I remember, Joe, like when we had it the first time that we had it, because we bought them for that podcast episode, and we like opened it, and at the same time obviously, and we were just like, oh my god, this smells like ice cream. And you know how sometimes something smells a particular, like something will smell really, really good, and then you taste it and you're like, oh, it's good, but it's not to the level that it smells. So like you kind of go in expecting that after a while, and then we took a sip of it and we were like, holy shit, it tastes like ice cream. And we were like, what? Like, this is just, and I feel like that messed with my brain, because I was like, how can it taste so much like ice cream and not be ice cream? Like, I feel like it would make an amazing ice cream float, just chucking a bit of ice cream in it.
Well, we have previously done a takeover. January 19, we did a collab with Beatniks in Manchester, did a tap takeover in their bar, and they do have a soft serve slushy machine.
Oh, amazing.
So they put the Raspberry Ripple version in that. They also have me running around Manchester trying to find sprinkles. And then we're doing another takeover with them the first week of December, and they're going to put the chocolate fudge cake in there as well.
Oh, nice.
So
I just wish you guys were closer. Like literally, if you I keep being like, we need to go. We wanted to go up to Liverpool anyways to see Dead Crafty, because we did an event, international women's collaboration brew day event with that Full Circle hosted, and we were on that, and we listened to them talk about like Dead Crafty and all that. We're like, oh, it's so amazing. And I said, oh, I'd love to go there. And Joe was like, oh, I want to go there as well. And we're like, we have to go to Liverpool. And then I was like, Top Rope's there, Dead Crafty's there. I was like, there's a whole bunch of places. I only knew that you guys were there, and then I found out there was a whole bunch of other really good places as well. And I was like, well, officially there's enough places that we can justify going for like a beer crawl for a weekend.
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, you say in terms of actual brews, you've got us, you've got Asvet, you've got Black Lodge, you've got Chapter, you've got Carnival, you've got Love Lane, you've got Neptune, who are a bit further up. They're easy to get to. So in actual terms of breweries and spaces, especially someone like Asvec, who are, they've just started brewing their beers. Obviously, Adam, formerly of Neon Raptor, who started up there. You've got all those, but then in terms of bars, you've got the likes of, you've got Dead Crafty, you've got Grapes, which is one of the greatest cask bars in the entire country. One of the few bars in the country I know that will buy casks of like 10+% beers off us. Just because they can. You've got places like Keystone that have recently reopened themselves, formerly up on Hope Street. You've got the likes of, the Ship and Mitre, which has that major amount of history. You've got the Baltic Fleet, which has its obviously history with having a former Wapping brewery in there, which is where Lally, who is now of Polly's, formerly of Mad Hatter, he started at Wapping Brewery. So yeah, as with everything in Liverpool, it's steeped in substantial quantity of history that actually me trying to sit here, remember things and reel them off becomes very, very difficult, because there's that much to have to try and go through. But no, it's very much a city, as like with Manchester, where you can book yourself a weekend up, come up and just have a fantastic time.
I don't think I'd ever thought about it because, like, when I think about Liverpool, I think like many people, you think about the Beatles. I was gonna say, I think it's just that thing of like everyone knows Liverpool for the Beatles. My dad is a massive Beatles fan, so when they came to visit me from the US, I took them up there to go do the Beatles stuff. I'd already done it myself on like a road trip in the UK, and I just wish I knew about all the amazing beer because the second we went up there, we were like, we'll just walk around shops because we didn't know what else to do. And a few years later, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't know all these amazing beer spots were there. I just don't think people talk about it enough, really.
No,
we do
kind of get a little bit lost being, that standard Liverpool Manchester thing. Manchester is such a different city in the way, it's essentially the country's second capital that has everything else going for it. So we do kind of get a little bit lost in that shuffle. But I think over the last couple of years, the way that, in particular, the beer scene has increased and expanded, we are starting to become more and more a place that people want to go to, because of the level of the quality of beer that is available in the city.
How close to like the city centre are you guys? Are you right in the city centre? Are you further outside?
We're technically in Bootle, which is sort of north of the city. If you're going from, say, Liverpool Central train station, we are 4 train stations and a 10-minute walk.
Okay.
The site that we moved into, we specifically went to because we knew it's in a place where it's got fantastic transport links. Turns out I'd moved house about 3 weeks before we'd signed the lease. And for me, it's about a 20-minute bus ride from my new house to where the brewery is, which works out great if you want to have a drink as well.
Yeah, nice.
No, we've chosen it because although it's not directly in the city centre, because there's not many people who can afford the city centre of Liverpool. It's an incredibly expensive place. But we've chosen this place because it is still a fantastic location. And we are, fingers crossed, hopefully going to be, as the crow flies, about 15 minutes. If you're to walk directly over the canals and through the water to where the new Everton ground is going to be.
Oh, nice.
That's amazing. I mean, the whole, like, when I was there, just by like the harbour area as well, like it was genuinely like such a nice area. Just the centre was really nice. Everywhere I went to was really nice. But I just wish that I had known more to be able to be like, okay, let's go a little bit further out this way, or let's go visit this bar. I just had no idea, because I never thought to look into it for beer. So hopefully this will serve us, like, for anyone that was like myself a year, 2 years ago, a few years ago, that just had no idea. Hopefully they hear this and they're like, oh, actually, yeah, it's definitely worth going for a long weekend. And I think, Joe, like, we need to get
It's
on
been
that.
on my list for ages. But Gordon won't go. He's a Man United fan, so he's like, I'm not going to Liverpool. So I'm just going to leave him at home, and Tori and I'll go. It's fine.
I'm football agnostic. I don't watch football whatsoever. So
I don't care.
Not a clue.
I'm the same, Tori, don't you worry. But no, if anybody's listening to this and wants to come to Liverpool, feel free to contact us at Top Rope. We'll happily tell you where to go to. If you can go on Twitter and contact the Liverpool Beer Collective. It's a sort of social media account, sort of an active account that's designed to help promote Liverpool and the events that are taking place in Liverpool as well. So 100% go speak to those guys as well. But we're always happy to, stand. I mean, I'm an adopted Scouser. I'm from Yorkshire originally. Which is that mentality where we're happy to help you guys. If anybody wants to come to the city and experience it, speak to us and we'll tell you where to go. We'll tell you the best places to go and get, whether it's a pint of beer, whether it's a burger, a bagel, whatever you want to have, we can advise you of where to go to. So don't ever be afraid to speak to us or any other Scouse brewery at all.
Amazing.
Everybody up north is so nice. It's literally,
we're not used to it.
We went up to Sheffield to brew with Heist. Everyone was so nice to us. Just on the streets, people were like so nice, and we were like, oh, people are like talking to us. They want to say hi. They'd just be like, they were like, hey, like one of the guys we ran into was like, saw you at Heist earlier. And he was buying a Vault City. He's like, did you guys want to try some of it? And we're like, no, it's okay. You don't have to do that. And he was just like, no, try it. He was just so happy and so welcoming and warm. And we were like, oh, we're so southern, because this would have never even. But we were like, oh my god,
down here, mate.
So nice.
You guys were at Heist a couple of weeks after us, weren't you?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
We had just missed each other, and then we had just missed Damien as well. Like Emperor's was just there, like right after us as well. I was like, you guys were there like right before us. Emperor's was there right after us.
I've got Damien coming down next year.
Oh, amazing.
Even better, I've worked it out. The beer that we're doing with him is getting canned on May 4th.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Amazing. That is actually amazing.
That markets itself. Done.
Yeah,
that's how social media posts out of the way.
That's how in depth with these cuts I will go. I will make sure that these things happen.
I absolutely love that, and he's like a lovely guy
He's
in
so
general.
One of the nicest
Just-
blokes in the world.
honestly, but that's amazing. That is so good. Speaking of stouts though, because obviously that just goes into stout territory. I'm gonna crack open my Yeti. So I bought this strictly because it was peanut butter and pretzel. More so because it was peanut butter. I was like, peanut butter, you have me. But peanut butter pretzel was like a double whammy.
I'm very jealous you have that beer. Very jealous.
I was trying to save it, and I was trying to like leave it so my husband could have some. But then when the parcel force gate happened,
she's like, what have you got? I was like, I've got one top right beer, and it's the peanut butter stout one,
and it's the one that I got. So when I ordered it, I ordered an extra one. For I was like, I'm ordering these, do you want one? And she was like, yes. 100%. I actually don't even think I asked you. I think I ordered
I think you just got it for me. And we're just like, that's in the bag, that's yours. I was like, oh, well done.
Yeah, and I meant to save this so my husband can have some, so I might have to save him the sip for the end, because he also loves peanut butter and pretzel.
You're not going to want to share this.
It's going to be another one.
So this beer was born from the fact that we have one of our taproom snacks is peanut.
So sorry.
For those that are listening,
that was like a visceral reaction.
Tori has just made a very happy reaction to the aroma
like
of the
peanut butter pretzels.
Yeah.
So the beer is born from the fact that one of our taproom snacks is peanut butter pretzel bites. The big tubs you can get from Costco, basically, is what we have in the tap room. And my thinking was just, I want to sit with an entire tub of these and an entire tub of Nutella and just dip them in and eat them entirely. And then we were like, that sounds like a beer. I was like, it does. And Ben was like, it sounds like a stout. I was like, it does. It sounds like an imperial stout.
Yeah.
So hence why this beer was born. It also has one of the absolute most tenuous possible grasps on wrestling links that we've ever come up with, which is it's named after a gentleman from WCW called the Yeti. That was the wrestler,
right?
And he was played by a gentleman called, I can't remember his surname, but his first name was Reese.
Okay.
So that's where the wrestling reference comes from. I mean, if you do want to see anything about the Yeti, obviously, I'm sure that if you both have noticed, if you look on the side, if you can, you'll see the little stickers that we started putting on.
Oh yeah. Match pairing.
Yes, so that's a little thing that's
clever.
That was the one that I had to explain to when I was explaining to Parcel Force the in-depth description. I was like, on the side corner, you will see it will say match pairing.
So for anybody who's not seen our beers before, one of the things that we've developed is to have a beer and match pairing. It's partly inspired by Chapter from Runcorn, and the way that they're a fictional brewery, so they're started by English teachers who obviously love reading and whatnot. So all of their beers are inspired by literary themes, and so they have a book pairing with each of their beers. Nice. If you're like me, it takes probably several weeks, if not months, to finish a book, and I can't afford to spend that on being drunk. So we realised that the vast majority of wrestling matches, or at least like the top tier levels of wrestling matches, will last about half an hour, which is kind of the perfect time to drink a beer with.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of our beers will obviously have direct themes from wrestling, whether it be a particular wrestler from an actual particular match or a particular pay-per-view that's happened. So we thought, why not give people the opportunity to know where we were coming from in these sort of the themes. It's a combination of either it allows me to go back and watch old school wrestling, which is always a good thing to have to do. It will allow diehard wrestling fans an excuse to go watch an old match, or it's a way of getting people like yourselves who aren't wrestling fans. You might kind of go, oh, I'll actually give this a go, and you'll look at it on YouTube, you'll watch it along when you're drinking the beers. It's just another way of getting people connected with that level of wrestling. I mean, don't get me wrong, that particular match is utter horseshit.
Okay.
That's not the one to watch. That's not the one to watch. It's Halloween Havoc.
But it's horseshit in wrestling standards, which means
it's like the best possible.
It's like kitsch.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. It's Hulk Hogan, who was never a good wrestler and is just an absolutely abhorrent.
Don't talk about Hulk Hogan like that.
The giant racist hot dog that is Hulk Hogan.
He's great. He's great for the memes, though. Like, if you're going to get the memes on, that is like the memes.
Exactly, nothing else. Going up against, as he was called then, the giant, or probably more known as Big Show. That was that match, and it was It was a terrible match. That was their second match of the night after they'd had a monster truck match.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of the ridiculousness.
So in monster trucks, like literally grabbing each other, and Hulk Hogan had shoved Paul White, or the Giant, off the top of the arena. And obviously he wasn't dead. He came back, so they had a match. And then it was the Yeti who debuted or came out of it. And hence why you've got the screams on the side of the camera which say, the Yeti is taller than the Giant, by Tony Schiavone trying to sell it. And it was just, it was just awful. It's one of those things when people kind of go, and you like wrestling? You're like,
yeah, but that's why, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why.
That's not so much why. That's one of the reasons why I do question myself in comparison to, say, watching the likes of Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at AEW last weekend, or Miro versus Bryan Danielson, which is just kind of go, oh, these men just want to murder each other. That's it. It's just big, sweaty men wanting to murder each other, and it's just incredible to watch. But very much so, the Yeti, that is just not, it's not a highlight of wrestling's history, shall we say.
No, I like the campiness of wrestling though. I think, like, for me, that is what I like about it, is when it's like the story, like the obscene storylines. Like, it's the you're probably gonna correct me because I might be misremembering all of it, and Joe, you're probably gonna be like, what the fuck are you on about? But like, didn't like Vince McMahon die for like ages, and then he came back?
No, he died very quickly. That happened. Is that the one that happened in July 2007?
Oh.
And then so that was the Muhammad Hassan one. Sorry, no, that one was at the time when there was the Chris Benoit thing took place. The Chris Benoit, as I'm sure anybody who may have, even non-wrestling fans know of the Chris Benoit murder-suicide thing, and that's when Vince McMahon came back from dead. It was like, no, that never happened. There was no murder. But trust me, that's the scale of what is actually seen on TV is nothing in comparison to the things that have actually been pitched and have never made it anywhere.
That needs to be a podcast. That needs to be a podcast.
It is. Like... There are hundreds of podcasts. Like there's one which Vince McMahon pitched, which if you this one might need to get bleeped. But basically, the storyline was that his actual real life daughter, Stephanie McMahon, became pregnant.
Right.
And it turns out that Vince's suggestion was that he was the father.
What the fuck?
No.
It gets even better, but then someone goes to him, no, Vince, no.
You can't do that.
No.
So he went, okay, fair enough. Okay, I'm not the dad. How about if Stephanie's actual real life brother, Shane, what if he's the father? And they're kind of going, Vince, you're not quite guessing what's wrong with this.
No.
So, but
oh man,
this is one man who is so weird that he doesn't like he hates sneezing. You can't sneeze around him.
I'm sorry, I don't know why, but that's really made me laugh. Just the idea of,
because it's an involuntary thing and he can't control it. Right. And he also spent at some point someone tried to say to him, Vince, do you want a burrito? And he's like, don't know what a burrito is. What, Vince, do you want a burrito? I've never heard of what's this burrito thing. Apparently he'd eaten one every single day for lunch for 3 years, but nobody had told him what a burrito was. So he apparently had no idea what burrito was.
That's amazing.
That is literally so good. Yes. I haven't even had a sip of this yet, by the way, because it smells really nice.
I'm halfway down mine.
Yeah, it smells really nice, and I'm afraid to start drinking it because I'm afraid it's going to be gone too quickly.
It will be gone too quickly. I can promise
it smells. So I have those big tub of pretzels that you talked about, and I absolutely love them. And it really does smell bang on like a peanut butter pretzel. I've never thought to dip it in a Nutella. You've just given me something. Yeah. I'm going to go and try that for sure.
Well, depending where you live, like me, I've got an album tomorrow, so it's Natoka.
Natoka.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It really does. Like.
And it like really this nice. It's dangerous. Like it's 10%. It does not.
That's not 10%.
Yeah, no, 10%. Hello, on the can. No, exactly.
I'll also say no peanuts were harmed in the making of the beer. So it is completely nut free. As with all of our nut beers, we don't put any nuts into any beer, mainly because they kill head retention. They're a pain in the arse. But it also has 6 kilos of pretzels in it.
That is incredible.
That was the best thing ever because the only place we could find to get vegan pretzels from was Holland Barrett, and they came in 100 gram packets.
So no, that's a lot of pretzels.
So we had to place 2 orders because the most that we could order was 3 kilos at a time. So we technically had 2 separate orders of pretzels that came in for this one.
Do you think that somebody, like whoever was fulfilling those orders, do you think someone was like,
someone really likes pretzels?
what? Like, yeah, like who are they feeding with these pretzels?
So I will say there's probably just under 6 kilos of pretzels in there because, of course, we had to taste test them.
Oh yeah,
You have to know what's going to go in. You have to know that it's like a good quality pretzel that's going in. Like, yeah, no, honestly, can't judge you there. But
how do you get the peanut flavour in your beer?
Again, we use high quality aromas in the same way that the likes of when it was going to be controversial here, when it was good, Yellow Belly. That was obviously the kind of the first mainstream beer that came out that was a peanut butter biscuit beer that had no peanut butter biscuits or all that kind of stuff into it. So we just go with the aroma techniques. Just because, again, as soon as you put peanuts into it, again you're alienating part of your fan base. You get to kill any form of head retention because the oils in there just completely destroy it. So we just stick entirely with the aroma side of it all because that's where you get all of that flavour comes from. So it also has a bit of salt into it as well for the extra saltiness of the pretzels as well.
Yeah, I never had the Yellow Belly. I've got the Coward, which I got because I was like, well, now I'm curious. I never had it. I've got it sitting in my fridge just because I was like, I'm waiting for the right moment. But I never had it. It kept feeling like they were like, oh, it's the very last ones that we're doing, and then they'd be like, and we found more, and it's the very last ones we're doing. So I just kind of took that for granted and was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you need to grab one of those cease and desist ones.
Yeah, I just was like, meh.
I actually had I think it was either the original or the second batch at the Liverpool Craft Beer Festival, but they had it on cask as well.
Ooh.
We ended up finishing the session just by seeing how much literally kind of like almost picking the cask up and just trying to get that. But yeah, that was a very, very, very messy night after drinking that on cask, to be fair.
I bet.
I can imagine. I think like this one, it's not like super, super thin, but it's definitely thinner, which I think is really says a lot for that. It can be so full of flavour, but the mouthfeel isn't too full, because I think like that's maybe partially why it doesn't taste like a 10%, because I think there's a lot of stouts that I do like full of mouthfeels sometimes, but that can make you feel really full really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think this, because it is a bit thinner than something that's like chewable, it does make it easier to drink almost, and I don't think it tastes 10%. This is like, when Joe was like 10%, I had to do a double take because I knew that it was quite high ABV, but I didn't really think about it because I tasted it and was like, oh, this is really good. And then when she said 10, I was like, nah. I was like, there's no way this is a double-digit one. And then I was like, yeah, it's definitely double digits.
It's the kind of beer that I refer to as a Kenny Loggins beer.
A Kenny Loggins beer.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Highway to the Danger Zone.
I just wanted you to finish it. I was like waiting for you to just finish that. Yeah, absolutely is. But so like you mentioned cask a few times. Do you guys do the majority cask or keg? Do you do a mix? How do you guys do?
We do a nice split. We like to keep beers sort of fresh and exciting in the way that we don't brew beers just to brew for the sake of brewing beer. We'll brew the kind of beer that we want to drink. Things like Cold Stone and things like Papa Mango, I don't drink that much of anymore just because of the sheer quantity I've drank of it over the year. It's sort of that diminishing returns kind of atmosphere. But we still make sure that the beers that we brew are always exciting. For example, we've just kegged and casked a new batch of Papa Mango. We've got a new 4.4% single hop session IPA in tank that's getting kegged and casked next week. We've got a new Kolsch style, which is getting partially cast and mostly kegged. But then we keep things exciting. If there's something a little bit stupid and crazy, we have done cask sours in the past. We do some of our imperial stouts in cask. We do lagers in cask. We just kind of try and play to the beer's strengths. So if you're going to have like a 3.9% pale ale, that's going to get brought out by cask 100%, because that extra bit of warmth, the bit of oxygen there will help to bring things to the forefront. But then things like your 6 to 7% IPAs, which have been very heavily dry hopped, they're going to benefit from the keg. because they'll have that extended lifespan. The chill will just help sort of bring out the flavour a little bit more and kind of balance things. So we always try to make sure that we play to each beer's strengths, aside from if it's something really stupid, in which case, fuck it, we'll put it into a cask and just see what happens.
What inspires the flavors that you do? Like when you pick a new, ice cream pale that you're going to do, or you decide is it just drawing from the things you like to eat, or do you just kind of go, what's something crazy that we can do? Oh, this is crazy, like let's go with that, or what inspires you?
A little bit of everything. Like for the birthday, we released a Banoffee Brown Ale because I absolutely adore Banoffee in every way, shape, and form. And then we're kind of working out what would work, what Banoffee would work with, and kind of went, well, toffee flavors, that sort of autumnal kind of style would work really well with a brown ale because it has that kind of toffee, a little bit of burnt flavors to it. So that would work, it just balanced really well. So we did a brown ale. We fermented it on a wheat yeast. So it gave those banana esters. We added an absolute mountain full of banana puree to it. And then we added a load of toffee into it as well. And it just came out tasting like a pint of Banoffee. It was absolutely incredible.
That's the one you didn't put in can, was it? That was the one that I was like, oh, that sounds, I saw it come out somewhere on like the socials or whatever, and I was like, that sounds amazing. And then I think you said it wasn't going to can, and I was like, why are you doing this to me? Don't put it on the socials. Now I know what I'm missing. Because that was one of the ones that I was like, there's a new Cold Stone coming out for your birthday. The Banoffee sounds amazing. I was like, I'm going to put in this big old order for all these cans. Then you're like, yeah, sorry, that one's tap room only. And I was like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Some sounds like a brown ale to put it into a can is a pain in the arse to sell. They don't sell particularly well. But most of it comes from the things that we love to obviously consume. Because obviously we have to drink a lot of this beer, whether it's unfinished in tank or whether it's doing specific events. We have to drink the beer itself as well. So we want to make sure it's something we like to drink. Pale ales, it's just a case of we just want something. If you go in like that full, sort of like 3.9 to 4.5%, you just want something light and quench it, something thirst quenching. You can just go to a place, get a pint of it, and just go, it's gone. It's simple as that. But then beyond that, it's especially with things like IPAs, it's a case of toying around with the different flavor profiles, of learning how different hops will work together, how the yeast will interact with that and stuff as well. It's just a constantly evolving learning playing field. With new hop varieties always coming out, with the addition of Sabro a couple of years ago, which is basically just a pina colada hop. It's absolutely insane.
Really is, isn't it?
Things like the new HBC 630, which we've got some of, which gives massive red berry fruits and sort of cherry and black currants and that kind of stuff. We're utilising some of that start of next year. So it's just a case of tinkering and playing and just constantly trying to make sure that everything that we're doing is become not only delicious but also something that is exciting and for us to push out further afield and to get a bit out of our comfort zone and try something new.
That Banoffee sounded honestly, it sounded amazing.
So
just reading it, and I think Joe, like we were talking about how we need more brown ales.
We need more brown ales.
We just need more brown ales in general. But a Banoffee one, I can see how those flavors would lend themselves so good to each other. It was times.
Yeah, we had it on cask at the taproom party, and I drank just so much of it.
Do you still? Is it completely out now, or can people still go and get it if they're?
We have a few kegs that left in the cold store, so if anybody is looking to get hold of it for either their own bar or if someone has a Linda at home, you're welcome to buy a keg of it. That's perfectly fine. But off the back of that, we are potentially looking at producing an American style brown next year at some point, just because the response from it's gone down really well. And again, it's something that we've done as a one-off, and we've seen the response. We kind of go, well, we can utilize this and we can turn it into something later on down the line.
I think people forget that.
I need to come up with a hashtag.
With Bipper comeback one.
We've got Bipper comeback, but I need like a brown ale one.
Yeah, I think Andy's got the Bipper comeback going, but we need somebody to bring back.
I think we need a brown ale. I might
have
to brainstorm that.
Bring back brown ale. I don't know. We'll have to think. I'll think of something catchy. It's fine. Yeah. We'll get something catchy out there, because I think people don't. Like, people forget that how much they like brown ales until they have one. I don't think people go out and buy the cans of it. Like, I don't think the majority go out and buy the cans of it. Like you said, if you canned it, you'd probably stock a lot of cans because people would go, oh, brown ale. But when you're actually out there in a tap room and you order it, people go, oh yeah, I forget how much I love a brown ale.
But it's because it's Newcastle Brown. People go, oh, Newcastle Brown. Like it's not what it used to be. And if that's what your frame of reference for a brown ale is, you're like, oh, nah. But when you get those amazing toffee flavors in there, and then you mix it with something else, like that just takes it to another level.
Yeah, 100%. Same thing with red ales as well. That they're the same. It's very difficult to make ones that are deep and flavorful, because they still require heavy dry hopping, but people associate red ales with cask. Therefore, trying to get it more than 350 a pint can be a struggle to do. So.
I was going to say, I wonder if part of it is as well. There's a lot of breweries are striving to sort of replicate what breweries in the US are doing with these, big IPAs, big dippers, and those juicy flavors and all that kind of stuff. And I've got that set aside as well. I've got a whole bunch of it. I ordered the birthday pack. I want you to say about the birthday pack as well. But I wonder if part of it is people trying to replicate that US style, or that being the popular style at the moment, and the more traditional styles make people think about something a lot different than what they've become or what craft breweries have made them into, and just people don't give them the time of day that they should, because I've had some really banging red ales as well.
It's difficult because, like, I'm sure that you guys find, if you've got a fridge full of beer, the first style of beer to fly out of your fridge is going to be that sort of mid-strength pale ale. That's it just goes, because it's the kind of beer that you haven't got to think about. You will sit there and obviously enjoy it, but you don't have to. You don't overcomplicate things. But things like browns and reds, because they have that bit more depth to them. If it's in a small package you're drinking at home, you will want to savor it a little bit more and kind of enjoy the flavors of it. And then if you're out in a pub, again, it's just purely a sales standpoint. It's the brown ales have got a massive level of love, but we're all aware that if people go to a pub, the first thing they'll order when they walk in there, unless you've got a predisposition towards something, the first thing you'll walk in and go is pale or IPA.
Yeah,
it's just the way things go, and to say that there is a love regrowing for the likes of cask. Since James Calder has stepped up as head of SEBA from a couple of years back, he's done absolute wonders. He's been amazing for us, and cask is never going to go away, thankfully, because it's a gorgeous. It's an art form that is very much required in this country, and it has obviously the strongest possible history roots in terms of beer. And those who do it really, really well. There are some who do it really, really badly, and I'll just use this as one little platform just to say flat out, fuck Wetherspoons, in every way, shape, and form.
I don't think either of us would disagree. I don't think that's not going to get edited out unless you ask us to edit it out. It's definitely not getting edited out by us because we don't disagree.
No, that's just a standard thing.
Overall, just full package of what they stand for me.
Yeah, just standard in every way, shape, and form. Just fuck Wetherspoons, fuck Tim Martin, because just. But people who do cask properly, unlike him, it's done well. It's done with respect. Places like us, places like Neptune, Carnival, Black Lodge, we all do cask because we know that it's an art form, especially within Liverpool. It's never going to go away. It's a very heavy cask city, and it is very much required. I'm sure that Tori will disagree with me, but as well, I'm from the north. We like sparklers.
We totally had this conversation when we were in Sheffield. We had this conversation with Rachel from Heist, and she was just like, we went up there. We were sending. She couldn't brew with us, even though she's the one that organised it all. She couldn't brew with us because she got COVID.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, literally the day that we were driving up, it was heartbreaking. But we were sending her photos from. We went to Shakespeare's, and we were sending her photos from there. And we were like, "We've got this," and she was like, "Oh, it's got you had that with a sparkler on it." We were like, haha, funny jokes.
I did say she'll have to come down here. I was like, you'll have to bring your sparkler because there won't be any down here.
Oh no! Every time we do an event in the south, every single pub I ever deal with in the south, it's always a case of, I've sent your cast down for you. Don't worry, the sparklers are attached on top. Don't worry, I've got you sorted.
At least they know how to use it. I feel like there's probably a lot of places that would be like, what? How do I do this?
I'd be more worried about they just wouldn't put the cask on.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that is sparkler, the big old sparkler debate.
Yes.
To be fair, I could probably, well, I don't know, because I've never had a like for like. Like I've never had one down here and then gone up north and like had it off sparkler and then had it with the sparkler on it to tell the difference. But it was definitely like creamier and you could. I don't know if it was just me being like, this is this particular beer and I'm reading into it, or because it wasn't like for like, but I could definitely tell. I think maybe, but if you like blind gave me something and said sparkler or no, I'd be like, oh,
it's the age old argument. Oh, well, if your beer's conditioned, you don't need a sparkler. Like, yeah, but also fuck off. Just put a sparkler.
But also, are you also like, fuck off, it's the north. Is what we do. We sparkler.
Yeah, put a sparkler. Like, it's fine.
Speaking of your birthday beers,
yes.
So I ordered your birthday pack, and you're doing a virtual tasting for that, aren't you?
Yes, we are. That's it's been done with. There's a website called Grapple, which is essentially a wrestling sort of rating app that's designed to be able to allow people to experience different kinds of wrestling. So, say for example, you may have someone who only ever watches WWE, which if you do that, that's fine. You are missing out. Simple as that. If you're a kind of person who only watches WWE, then you are, in my opinion, at the lowest rung of what wrestling could be, because it is at the moment it's just an awful, awful product. It's stale. It's single-minded. It's just very, very badly produced. But Grapple is out there to allow people to see ratings from basically every promotion across the country, whether it be an international scale, a national scale, or a local scale. You can actually see what is being sort of reviewed as some of the best wrestling out there. So if anybody's interested, it's GRAPPL, just simple as that. So go and check them out, and you can kind of see, how the likes of how the Japanese are doing with like New Japan Pro Wrestling, and their level of wrestling is, as a Westerner watching the first levels of Japanese wrestling, it's terrifying because they're silent. They sit there and in just complete silence, just watching what happens. And then if something goes, it's like a really big spot, all you get is just,
oh wow,
that's it, nothing else. And it's really, really weird. So when you hear like wrestlers talk about when they go over for the first time and they're not quite sure what to expect, and then they get back, they're just like, oh, I did this really big spot and I got a round of applause. I was like, I'm used to like having massive cheers and people screaming for it. And
right.
It's weird. But yeah, we're doing a sort of a tasting with the guys at Grapple. They're hosting it. I believe it's initially meant to be on their Patreon, so it's for their subscribers. But I think they are looking at hosting it sort of, for non-Patreon subscribers to watch as well afterwards. Because the plan is for us to basically drink the beers with the guys from Grapple, get their subscribers to sort of join us for a drink, ask us questions, and that's when we're going to go super in depth into all the wrestling stuff. But yeah, that's what that's about. But that's essentially, it's like, I think was it 30 quid? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was about 30 quid, yeah. But you got this, that's where I got the stone cold, the normal cold stone, and the chocolate cold stone as well. Because I was like, I got that pack because I knew that there were certain ones that I wanted to get, and all the ones that I wanted to get were in that pack. Yeah. Because the porter was in that pack. Which they're probably really gutted because the porter was one of the ones that I sent her, and she was really looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, essentially, five of those 6 beers are our birthday beers. So you have the Cold Stone Cream Monster, which is the birthday cake. You've got the Wrestlemania, which I'm currently drinking, which is our birthday IPA, which, as we were literally just talking about, big fuck off IPAs, 6%, very heavily hopped with Citra Eldorado and Idaho 7. So big, juicy, tropical. The thing I've basically started to describe it as, and I'm probably going to, this may be taken badly by some people, but it's a basic bitch beer. It's not in a bad way, but it's the beer that everybody wants to drink. Yeah, and they're really good for that reason. That they're great.
There's nothing wrong with being basic. Like, I think if
exactly.
basics, the base level, everyone likes that.
We own our basic. It's fine. We're the pumpkin spice girls. Like,
I am so pumpkin spice.
We're so basic. It's fine. We don't care.
I didn't mean that as a negative thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's definitely like, I don't think we took it as a negative thing, because that's not negative.
No,
I was thinking pumpkin spice, and then I was like, oh, sad times. That's me.
Precisely. It had Domaniac, which is our third in our trilogy of Rowdy Roddy Piper beers, which is beers all based off of Rowdy Roddy Piper, starting with Rowdy Roddy Porter. We then did All Out Coffee, which is a reference to his film They Live. And then this is Domaniac, which is a reference to, I'm hoping for anybody who watches Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He was in that as the Maniac. That was his character.
I never really thought about that until you just said that.
Yes.
I don't think I ever thought about that.
That's where it comes from. And the reason why it's coffee and hazelnut is because they're always coffee porters. But in the Maniac, he is, when they meet him in his car, he has a bucket of chestnuts in his car. But obviously chestnut doesn't work in beer, so we went with hazelnut instead. See, I love how Tori is like shaking her head at just how deep my wrestling puns and connecting go with this.
I think it's more like I was shaking my head at myself because I never
You didn't put two and two together.
didn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
I just did until you went like, yeah, it's always sunny in Philadelphia. And I was like, what about it's always sunny in Philadelphia? And then you said that and I was like, oh shit. I never connected those dots.
Well, you can literally see that if you look at the can of it, if you look at the picture of the can, part of the artwork is he's got a parking ticket that just says, "The Maniac loves you."
Yeah, absolutely does say that. And that was another one that I had to describe to the post lady. My description was, it looks like it's got a parking ticket on it, which says like Philadelphia parking ticket.
Yep.
And I was like, it's got this parking ticket on it, and then it's got red writing across it that says "The Maniac loves you." And she was like, "Thank you." Like she just, there was no, they have to be going off a script because there was no level of like,
what are you talking about?
Like, thank you, smiley face. And I was like, you're welcome.
Well, to be fair, if you're doing it as well, do it properly as he does when at the end of it when he gets arrested. He's gonna go, "The Maniac loves you, boys."
I just now that you're saying the parking ticket, I was like, yeah, it did say Philadelphia on it. It just never crossed my brain.
And then the last beer in the wrestling pack is our birthday lager, the Ultimate Challenge.
There's two of those, I believe.
There are two of them for a very good reason, which I will explain at the moment. For anybody who has caught up with us, our birthday is called Wrestlemania. Because of course the biggest wrestling event of the year is called Wrestlemania, and so we make sure to theme each birthday on that particular Wrestlemania. Okay. So for this one, we're in Wrestlemania 6. So the headline of that match was Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. Hulk Hogan was the world champion. Ultimate Warrior was the Intercontinental Champion, and it was a winner-takes-all match. So whoever won became a joint champion, basically. In this day and age, we don't feel comfortable referencing either of those two individuals because obviously Hulk Hogan is a racist hot dog, and Ultimate Warrior, before his passing, was a very well-known homophobe. And so their legacies outside of wrestling aren't things that we are particularly proud of and we don't want to be involved with. But obviously we couldn't neglect the impact that they have on the industry. So instead, we decided to go with the designs that you have, which is one design being the World Heavyweight Championship and one design being the IC Championship. Therefore, allowing people you can either pick your side and you can choose which belt you want to have, or if you're a collector, you can just get both cans. So you can go along those lines. That's where it comes from, basically.
I picked this one because I liked the pink in the background of it.
Yeah.
I sent Joanne the one that had more of the black in the background. That was the in-depth level of what I went to on that, as I was like, oh, I quite like the pink in this one, so I'm gonna go with this one.
That's fair. If I personally, I'm the IC, the Intercontinental Championship belt, is one of my favorite belts of all time, especially the traditional white belt, which was brought back by Cody Rhodes donkeys years ago, and they replaced it recently with just this horrific mess of a belt. It makes me sad every single time I look at it, because that white belt with the gold is just so iconic and beautiful. Yeah. Just amazing.
Yeah, I love the fact that you were like, that's the road we're taking, because it's what do you do when you go, oh, there's two people fighting each other that are both notoriously not great people, but that's the theme that you've got to go with, more or less.
Yeah,
it's how you do things. Is like, oh, I feel like you've handled that in a really tactful way.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Unfortunately, it's a very underlying theme in wrestling that we have, especially until maybe our like 23rd, 24th birthday. We're going to struggle because there's a lot of parts of wrestling history that we don't want to touch upon.
Yeah.
There's a question that I know Tori wants to ask in a bit, which we'll delve into that question a little bit further. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't want to touch upon for reasons that just they make us uncomfortable as individuals, and therefore they're not going to have a good feeling for wider audiences, especially when we have to explain what they are to non-wrestling fans, and everyone just goes, "You like wrestling?" It's a question that comes up a lot as a wrestling fan. I'm fully aware of that. So it's just ways of doing that. So yeah, that's what the wrestling pack that we did. So it was those four that we did into can, and then the other 4 beers that we did for the birthday were the Banoffee Brown Ale, which also fittingly at Wrestlemania 6, Rowdy Roddy Piper fought Bad News Brown. So that's,
did that play at all into it, or was that just a positive coincidence?
Did the wrestling names come first and then the beer, or the other way around, or a little bit of both?
Most of the name first and the beer backwards.
Okay.
That's normally how it goes. Like, for example, the other one of our other birthday beers was Jake the Shake, which is obviously a play on Jake the Snake Roberts, which is a name that we've had for a very long time. But that was a peach milkshake IPA. That also wasn't canned.
I know. You just are like, here's all these other amazing ones that you cannot have. But no, that's good, because then it's like, no, you have to go to that tap room to get that amazing sounding beer.
Not in a tap room. They are available for bars across the country as well.
Yeah. Start putting your request into your local bars, people.
Yeah.
We also did Can You Dig It, which was a Mojito Sour.
Ooh.
Which was a collab with a local brew pub in Colwyn Bay, North Wales, called Black Oak, owned by Andy and Max, who are just 2 of the nicest individuals in the entire world. I was drinking with them last weekend for an event. And they're just amazing. They're just beautiful people to be around. Andy's like a little tickle me Elmo. He just giggles at everything, and it's brilliant. So we did that with those guys, and then we also brought like a collab that we did with Hackney Brewery from London, which was called Flash Photography. So it was a 5.9% West Coast IPA. They brewed it for us a couple of years back, so we decided to replicate it this year. And again, it's come out an absolute barnstormer of a beer. It was just gorgeous, and it also went out onto cask, and I've drank it on cask several places, and oh, good Lord. It's very much a Kenny Loggins beer. 6%, but you can drink a pint of it without question.
Oh dear.
That's another one of like the me being a label magpie, is I wanted that one when I saw you put it on socials, because I really wanted the label on it. Because as a person that I am not going to consider myself even an amateur photographer, because my photography skills are not that good, but I love taking photos. Like, I like taking photos. I like seeing something and going, this competition's amazing, I want to do this. So that label, I was like, oh, I just want it for the label. And then that was another one, like, yes, it's not canned. And I'm like, no.
One thing I will point out to anybody as well, if anybody who sees our artworks and likes it, and whether you're a beer collector who likes to do little projects and stuff, if you ever want to get any Top Rope beer labels, please give me a shout. All I ask is that you send me a stamped address envelope, and I will send you as many beer labels as I can muster, because I've got like all beer labels from like 2, 3, 4 years ago that are just sitting in the brewery that I can't do anything with.
I can do that. Yeah. Like, I can send you a stamped label.
Yeah, we can do that.
So yeah, there's like a part of me that doesn't want to throw these away, because obviously they're quite a big part of my history. But at the same time, I've got nothing else I can do with them. So if anybody who's listening to this ever wants to get hold of any, please just drop me an email, drop us a message on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, and I'll sort out how to get them out to you, because I want to make sure that these pieces of what are essentially artwork, because our artist, Tom Sumner, is an absolute fecking god with what he does. He's brilliant.
I was going to say, they're all done by the same person does all of them.
Yeah, every piece of art that we have is done by a fellow called
this
Tom
one,
Sumner.
like, this amazing.
Cool.
I genuinely really like the belt one. I think it's just
really so he's on Instagram as _Thomas Sumner, SUMNER. So I'd highly recommend go checking him out. He's a graphic designer. He's absolutely just brilliant. But yeah, I want to make sure that all of these things, the last thing I want to do is throw them away, because it is like throwing away a piece of art to me.
Yeah.
And if somebody else can make use of these labels, then it's going to cost you a stamp and an envelope, and I will send you out literally as many as I can stuff into the envelope. I'll send you them all out.
Oh yeah, I could definitely do that.
Amazing.
I'll definitely send you one, because I love collecting labels. I do feel like I'm cheating when it's something I haven't had, but I will just sort of, so I tend to not, because I'm like, if I haven't had it, it feels like I've cheated to get it. But for the sake of, I've got some frames that I've just been really lazy with filling up, and I wanted to, it sounds really stupid, but I wanted to sort of fill up these frames and have them like there's different seasonal ones, like all the ice cream pails. I'd like to have all the ice cream pails on one, or dessert ones on one, and just really cool artwork that I like on another one, and Halloween themed ones for a Halloween one, and just change them out every so often and just cycle them around. So I feel like I'm cheating, but then I also kind of feel like, well, if I'm hanging it up and I'm not really claiming I've drank it.
Also, if a beer's out of production, that's allowed as well.
Yeah, it's like, that's it, I can't help that one. So you mentioned, obviously, there was something that you knew I was going to ask you this question anyway. So I know you did a beer for International Women's Collaboration Brew Day this past year. I got it. It was really lovely.
It was so delicious.
It was really good. I'm assuming that's what it was you were referring to that you knew I was going to ask you about?
Yes, it was.
Tell us more about
that. I did a few of these conversations, and I always feel it prevalent to start off my conversation about these by saying, yes, I am a straight white male, so I'm aware that the things that I may discuss are subjects which have been raised by females and by the women within beer and out of beer. So if I upset or offend anybody with what I'm talking about, do apologise, put me straight, make me aware of it, please do. I really, really appreciate any of that. So basically, up in Liverpool, we have a woman called Julie. Julie O'Grady, who is a part owner of Neptune Brewery, who started and sort of runs Ladies at Beer, which is a massively important social group that is designed to get women into beer, because, as you two know, it's not scary. Just go drink a beer. If you want to drink a beer, just drink a goddamn beer.
Drink a beer.
Just drink a beer.
And so basically, she started this years ago. She's very, 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 very strong-willed woman. She knows what she's doing. She knows how she's talking, what she's talking about, and she makes sure to sort of imbue that level of confidence into other women, both in and out of the industry. She has worked with International Women's Day for a number of years, and she made it her duty this year to ensure that as many breweries as possible were able to highlight the female influence in them. So from our standpoint, we have Pam, who is Ben's mum. She's one of our owners. And then there was my partner, Ruth, and Ben's partner, Sarah, who they're not massive beer drinkers, but they both are sort of, more engaging to the community than they were before they were involved with us and with Top Rope. So obviously she got as many breweries as possible to brew beers. So Pam, Ruth and Sarah all sat down and kind of went, okay, we need to brew a beer for International Women's Day. What are we going to do? They all love sour beers, so that was basic. My partner Bruce loves cherry, and Sarah, Ben's partner, loves kiwi. So they went cherry and kiwi sour. Cool, that's very easily done. So we got them down for a brew day. Everybody went in. They helped us brew the beer, as Pam does every day anyway. That's her job, is to, she's kind of a brewer assistant. So she does that for a living anyway. But it's just a case of, helping to get these people involved in what we do. And then in terms of when it came to kind of naming the beer, we were very careful because, again, the female side of wrestling is very tenuous. Up until 2015, which is when the Women's Revolution, which is what we coined our beer, kicked in, females in wrestling weren't given any of the credit they had, unless you were someone like Chyna, who was an absolute trailblazer in what she did. She was the first woman to enter the All-Men's Royal Rumble. She was the first female to win a male's belt. And her career was essentially just spent beating up men because she generally was an incredible athlete. Other than that, it tended to just be, 6 foot leggy blondes who looked good in a bikini, and that was basically it. So we made sure to kind of sit down and actually think about what we were doing with it. So we named it after the Women's Revolution of 2015, which is when you had the women who were called the Four Horsewomen. So there's Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. They had a fatal four-way match, and they're all still signed to the WWE. They're all multi-time world champions, and they're all some of the greatest female wrestlers at all in general. So we were fortunate enough to be able to name a beer after those and the movement that they helped start, which has now led to women in the industry being more highly regarded, as opposed to just having little 2-minute squash matches. They now have We've had the first women's pay-per-view main event. They ran our first women's WrestleMania main event, which was Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey. They ended WrestleMania, which, if anybody who knows anything about wrestling, is like that's the match of the year. That's the biggest showcase that you can possibly have. It was headlined by females. To the point now in AEW where they've got 2 female belts. There's female tag team divisions. In Liverpool, we have our local promotion TNT. They've had their first all women's weekend shows, where the entire card have been dedicated just to female wrestling, which is just absolutely incredible. So we were happy to be able to take part in that, and to help showcase, from our standpoint, help showcase females in our industry, in the beer industry, but also to help showcase the way that women are perceived within the wrestling industry as well. There's been a few similarities, both wrestling and beer had their own Me Too movements kind of within a short space of time of each other, which for me was very, very painful to have to go through it twice. And be like, it was a pain. Again, as I say, I'm aware it's nothing in comparison to what the females are going through, but it still hurts to have to watch it take place and go through. But we like to do everything that we can to ensure that takes place, and that it carries on further afield to make sure that women get the representation that they need to do. So hopefully we get invited back again next year, in 2022. We'll dive into that as strong as we can to make sure that is a key priority, because it is a very strong message that we like to portray as much as we possibly can. But yeah, it was just great to be invited into that scene and to that sort of that side of it all, into something that is a key issue that has to be discussed at every single opportunity, and is usually a very awkward conversation to have, but it's still something that needs to be taking place, and we were very happy to be a part of it.
I think you have to lean into the awkward though, don't you? Like if you shy away from the awkward, then nothing's going to change. If you just go, oh, it's too uncomfortable and it's too awkward to have a conversation, nothing ever changes. I think actually what's really brilliant is you started off before saying, I'm straight white male. I've not done this. If I've said something that's offensive, please let me know. Please speak to me, because I don't want to say something that's going to offend somebody, or I don't want to do this. And I think that's like the first step in having those conversations, is to not be like, or it might be an awkward conversation, I don't want to have it. I think that's really great. And I didn't realize just how much the beer that you brewed was so tied, again, the names you pick, and whether intentionally all the time or unintentionally, go so deep. I feel like this one in particular, how deep it goes is just so it's really powerful. The other ones, it's just a bit of, it's silly, it's fun. This one, it just feels like a really powerful going deep, and that is amazing. And then I also felt like the style, or the flavor you chose, not so much the style, because I feel like there's a lot of women that absolutely love sours as well. I don't know why, it really just tends to land really well, I feel like, with women. But that's me generalizing, and I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush. But on a whole, I feel like I speak to a lot of women, and we're all just like, yeah, sours, hells yeah. But I think the choice of kiwi, cherry, you go, yeah, okay, kiwi. You don't see that a lot, and I feel like that's a bold move in itself. Did you find any challenges with trying to brew with kiwi?
No, it was, again, as with the vast majority of our sort of fruit-laden beers, we tend to add the fruits towards the end of fermentation, because I'm sure that you guys have also found the issues where you've had breweries where they've made fruited beers and they haven't allowed it to fully ferment out. So you can essentially, obviously, you can end up with that secondary fermentation. You can end up with exploding cans, which we've suffered from. I'm not going to say that we have had them, and they're not nice at all. So we learned very quickly from those to make sure that whenever you are using fruit, that it is done in the safest possible manner, to ensure that the product you're sending out is safe, because there's nothing worse than having to someone go to you, this can exploded. I'm hoping you weren't holding it.
Right. Or you weren't near it when it happened.
Yeah, so with that one, it was a case of, as we treat all of our fruit beers, we added the fruit towards the end of fermentation. So we're making sure that the yeast was still active, and that obviously the sugars in the fruit were still going to be absorbed and consumed by the yeast, to make sure that most of them was gone as possible. We then made sure to crash it down very heavily. We made sure to dump it very heavily, so that no residual fruit's going to be left in the beer when it was packaged. but you're still going to get all of that aroma and all of that sort of the flavour that you get from kiwi and cherry. And we like the two of them together because usually if you're using a very distinct flavour like cherry or kiwi, you'll tend to blend it with a sort of a subtler fruit so they don't contrast too much, but they're both big, strong flavours. But they worked brilliantly, just like the tartness of the cherry and the tartness of the kiwi just for some reason just combined, as you would do when you get red and yellow, or red and green, sorry, and you put red and green together, and it's just this massive explosion, and that's exactly what we got from it.
Yeah, I thought that was such a bold move because I don't see a lot of breweries utilizing kiwi much in beers, and I didn't know if there was a particular challenge that presented itself with that, or if people didn't sort of think to use it because it's not something that immediately comes to the forefront of your brain. But I thought that was absolutely brilliant because I do love a good kiwi. As a kid, my mum used to buy kiwis and I'd just split them in half and eat it out with a spoon, like eat the centre bit out with a spoon. Haven't done that in like so many years, but yeah, love a good kiwi. So when I saw that, I was like, that's so unique and so different. I love the label on it. It was just like it was very brightly coloured. It was great. And I was like, yeah, 100% need to get that. And then it ended up tasting amazing. I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to work with it being kiwi in a beer. And then I drank it. I was like, it's really nice.
It was so good.
So kudos on that. You really pulled that one off. You mentioned about the Japanese wrestling scene. It's really funny that you say that because when you were talking, the question I was going to ask you after that was like, have you watched the Japanese wrestling scene? Because obviously I love Japanese stuff, as Joanne knows, and I never knew that much about wrestling until first introduced to it like a few years ago on a show called Terrace House, because one of the women that were in Terrace House was a female wrestler. She unfortunately has passed away. She had some internet bullying. It was a really sad story, and they've stopped doing that show because of what she got off the back end of that. But she was incredibly talented. So that was the first time that I had sort of heard about it, and I was like, I didn't realize that there was that wrestling was that big in Japan. And then since then, do you know who Lady Beard is?
No.
He is a big dude from I think he's from Australia or New Zealand. New Zealand, I think it is that he's from. I could be wrong. It might be Australia. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he went and he did wrestling in, again, I want to say Hong Kong. For a bit of a time, he did some wrestling somewhere, and then in a different part of Asia. And then he went over to Japan, and his whole thing is that he dresses as like a lolly. He's got this big old beard, but then he puts on a wig, and he puts his wig on with his pigtails, and he dresses up in lollygate, and he's just this like massive dude. But he's so energetic, and he puts on such a good show. But he was actually talking about that whole thing about, it was really weird going from one wrestling scene to another wrestling scene. He had done stunt work in the past and then moved into wrestling, and he was saying about how like in the wrestling scene, it was so weird having people be just dead silent when you're wrestling, and then just something would happen and they'd be like,
yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah, combination of that and combination of Japan being some of the hardest hitting, like there's the whole thing of of Japanese strong style being known worldwide as being one of the stiffest, because we're all fully aware that wrestling is fake. It's predetermined. The outcomes are fake. The outcomes are everyone knows what's going to happen with it. But
it's entertainment.
But it does also require athleticism. Like from what I understand, it does actually require
practice, and they've got to be safe. They could seriously damage each other.
Somebody. Yeah, you could hurt somebody. And I listened to a podcast. It's called Beautiful Anonymous, where just random people call in and tell stories. And this person that's an alt comic in the US, he's the one that hosts it, and he's also a massive wrestling fan. And somebody called in. It's basically anybody can call in, and you just tell a story. You stay anonymous. You just can tell a story about anything, and someone knows that he is a massive wrestling fan, and they called in and they were talking about how they were an amateur wrestler in the US, and they were just saying about how much actual work that he went to school for wrestling. He did all this training for wrestling, because you could as Joe said, you could really hurt yourself if you do something the wrong way. So maybe the storylines are fake, so quote unquote, and it's predetermined, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that people bust their ass to do it.
Yeah,
it's a form of entertainment. It's the same with dancers and singers. People are like, oh, you just dance, or you just sing. Those people have trained years to get to that point. They have to go to the gym, they have to practice, they have to put all this in. Like, I'm a former wardrobe supervisor from theatre. Like, I've seen the work that these people put in. It's not easy to be able to do that and to continue in that condition. Like, wrestling's the same. It's entertainment. They've got to be working, they've got to keep themselves in tip-top condition, they've got to practice. Like, there's a lot behind it that people don't see, much like the beer industry.
Exactly. But there's a difference between, but the difference in wrestling is that you have to be as safe as possible, but also make it look like it hurts.
Right.
Which is where it all comes into it, which is where the likes of the Japanese style they don't make it look like it hurts.
Oh.
They make it hurt.
Oh, they actually do it.
They commit when they do. If they go and do something, they commit to it.
Watching a match between Bryan Danielson and Eddie Kingston. Bryan Danielson is arguably one of the greatest wrestlers working today, if not of all time, both from a standpoint of his character work and his actual technical ability. He is insane. Eddie Kingston is a brawler from the streets of New York. He's a proper, New York style badass. Within, I'd say, 60 to 90 seconds of the match with Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston was essentially chopping his chest. So it was basically just smacking him on the chest with his bare hand. That's all it was. Bryan Danielson's chest was bright red from just bruises and marks of where he hit it. And it's like, they didn't stop the match and put a makeup artist in there. That was his actual chest getting beaten down. And that's a mentality that Danielson had from wrestling in Japan, which is some things, it's the age-old mentality of, I'll just tough it up and deal with it. But in that situation, it's a case of, don't try and make it look dangerous. The simple thing, chopped in the chest, get chopped in the chest. Like dangerous moves like Hurricane Ranas, brain busters, when things like when you get dropped in your neck, do those safely, but make it look painful. But the easy things, if it takes, just get smacked in the chest, and then these people will do it. But the Japanese are without question the worst for it, because they just have no respect for, in terms of wrestling, they've got no respect for like their own safety and their own well-being. When it comes to putting on a show for the crowd, they will do whatever it takes to be the most brutal motherfucker that's ever stepped between those ropes. Simple as that.
I believe it, and I know that from my understanding, just basically having been introduced into it from the perspective of female wrestling, their female wrestling scene is like quite big in comparison as well, from what I understand. And like, how you're saying, up until that revolution, it was just who could fit in a bikini, like leggy in a bikini, and then that was sort of it. And until that revolution happened in Japan, it's definitely, I don't feel it has that sexual element to it at all. It's just these absolutely like badass women that are getting in there, and it is amazing. From the little bit that I saw after looking into it, from seeing her name was Hannah, after seeing what she was doing, it is incredible. So I felt like it would have been a miss not to have asked you that, and then you brought up the Japanese wrestling scene on your own, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm not super far off on how big that is over there.
In Japan it's like a recognized actual, in the way that the Americans treat baseball, the Japanese treat wrestling. It's like a thing that you go to and you watch. Now you can sell out an 80,000 seat arena like that if you've got a match on. Like years ago, you had the likes of Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, and in Japan, and the matches were like instantly sold out. They were top of the card. Some of the greatest professional wrestling that you've ever seen, and it's just like next levels. Which is one of the reasons why having something like AEW, the All Elite Wrestling, which is a promotion that started 3 years ago, has been great. Because they've opened what's called the Forbidden Door, which is up until AEW, WWE was wrestling. That was it. They don't recognize anything else. They don't address any of the promotions. It'd be the way that Top Rope went. We are the only brewery in the world. There's no other brewery at all. That's what WWE did. But AEW came into it and they went, well, there's wrestling in Japan. So they started bringing Japanese wrestlers from New Japan into their brand to allow American audiences to see these wrestlers who they may not know of. in the same way that their wrestlers went over to Japan. There's other US wrestling companies like Impact, who is weirdly Impact owned by Billy Corgan.
Oh,
What?
Yes.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a massive. So apologies. No, he owns NWA. Sorry, apologies. But yeah, no, Billy Corgan is a massive wrestling fan.
That's still random as hell. Also, I referenced Swan the other day because someone said Billy Corgan, and I went, and I didn't say they said Smashing Pumpkins, and I went, and Swan, and they went, I forgot all about Swan. I was like, yeah, everyone did.
But whenever I think of Billy Corgan, all I can think is Homer Simpson smiling politely. That's all I can think of. But yeah, it allows wrestlers to sort of dip between different promotions and fight different people and all kinds of stuff. So having that level of openness about it all and being able to bring talents over from the likes of Japan, like Minoru Suzuki, who's like a 53-year-old, his nickname is the Murder Granddaddy because he's just genuinely terrifying. Having him fight people for fun again is just incredible to watch as a wrestling fan.
That's it. That's on my list of like when I go to Japan next. So I've ticked off all the things that the first time round I ticked off all the things I really wanted to do. The second time around we ticked off all the things we missed the first time and a few extras that were like the nice to have. Third time around it's like now it's going down to the definitely have to go to a wrestling match because now that I know like how badass wrestling is over there, I'm like, yeah, have to do that. I feel like I need to do that more than some other cultural things that you have to experience over there. I'm like, wrestling, that's one of the things I have to go to because I absolutely love it. So hands down, that is next on the list. Tick that off for sure.
The two things I want to do in Japan are wrestling and KFC on Christmas.
yes.
I've had KFC in Japan.
No,
was it
on Christmas? Was it Christmas KFC in Japan?
No, but I do love that whole tradition. But it's really expensive.
Yeah,
because it's really expensive, and they give you like there's like a gelatin or something like that. It's like the pudding, and you're like, oh, I don't really want that, but all right. It's really funny. It's so I get why you'd want to do it. It is so bizarre, and it's just so cool. But yeah, I was not a fan. I love KFC. I was not a fan.
Not a fan.
Yeah, not for me. But before we let you plug things and say your upcoming beers and all that good stuff, I feel like Joe's eyes are going to glaze over, but I'd be amiss to also not mention this. The Frank Turner show that you did
here she goes.
At your brewery. I still have one of the beers from it because I refused to drink it because
she's so upset.
I'm sure it's probably past its PBE at this point. That's my fault because I've been holding on to it. I wanted to save it for when I wasn't sure when his new album was coming out. I was like,
February.
For that. Yes, February now. I've pre-ordered it. But I was so gutted I couldn't go to that show. We almost drove. I'm not joking. My husband was fully on board to drive to Liverpool and back in the same night because I had just changed jobs. I'd entered the contest when I was in my old job. I then got offered a new job. I took the new job. Lost a whole fuck ton of holiday because I'm going to the US at Christmas, and I started halfway through the year, then won the contest, and I was like cloud nine, happiest I could ever be. Absolutely love Frank Turner. Used to go to at least one show a year, if not multiple. And then I realized I didn't have the holiday, and my husband is an absolute trooper. He was like, if you want to drive to Liverpool, I won't drink. You can drive there. I will drive us home, and we will get back for like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then you can go to work the next day. And I was like, just the gesture alone was really nice, but I cannot make you do that. I felt way too guilty, but it looked amazing. And I'm so jealous. I need to know, like, how did you get to do that? It was so cool. And you did a whole beer for it.
Yeah.
It was a good beer. It was a really good beer.
It was surreal, to be fair. It actually started 2 years ago. I'm a massive Frank Turner fan, obviously.
I've
got the recovery tattoo on my leg. That is getting adapted and getting changed. I'm getting the number 2527 tattooed onto it because that was our show number.
Amazing.
Basically, he did a beer years ago with Signature, and that bit had gone. I just was in the brewery one day. I was just like, I'll email him because I know that he still answers his own emails. So I've had a few like song requests on the shows. I emailed him, just kind of went, you've done this thing in the past. I don't know whether you'd be interested in trying it again. What's going to happen? I emailed him and he went, that sounds good. Have a chat to my manager. So he copied me into his manager, Charlie at Extra Mile. we had a conversation about stuff, kind of, start to get a few ideas flowing through. And then obviously that was like mid 2019, and then everything hit the shit. So we all just kind of went, not going to happen, basically. And then Frank kind of started doing all of those like live Facebook streams, and at one point I saw him drinking calls on there, so I was like, right, what's your address? I'm sending you some beer.
Sending you better beer.
Please drink better beer.
You're sitting there touting the virtues of independent local venues,
And he's drinking the cool.
But you can't drink independent local beer.
Exactly. So,
But to be
dear.
fair, we'll honestly, what he did during the lockdown for like, I was there every Thursday, beer in hand, my independent beer in hand, watching his shows, and it really just, I felt like it just cheered everyone up. And to see everyone across a globe, like people in the US, they were like, I'm in the US and I'm watching this now, and then you'd have people in other time zones that were like, yeah, I'm in this country and I'm watching it. And it just, I feel like it just collectively made everybody feel better for an hour out of their Thursday, out of their week, when they couldn't leave their house, and it was absolutely brilliant.
100% it was.
But get a better beer, for God's sake.
We kind of kept in touch, and then it was we'd moved to the new site, so you're talking about sort of maybe January, sort of February time this year. I'd contacted his management team again. I was like, okay, we had this conversation. We've just moved over. Would you be interested in doing something again? And they were like, okay, well, he has this new single coming out. We've got this thing, the kind of series of shows we're looking to do. We can maybe work with that. So Frank's one of his tour guys, a fellow called Dougie, who is just one of the greatest people in the world. He lives close to the brewery. So he got a phone call saying, do you want to go for a beer tasting in a brewery? And he
said yes.
Like, does the bear shit in the woods?
Right.
He was like, oh no, please don't make me. I guess if it's for business, I'll do it.
It's gonna happen. So he came down with a lass called Ali, who is one of Frank's lighting techs, and she's amazing. Annoyingly, she couldn't rig our latest gig because she's on tour with she's actually on tour with Rick Astley at the moment, which I know Dougie's
she's never going to give that up.
Yeah.
No, it's not a case of that. Dougie's never going to get her back because Rick will never give her up.
I couldn't not say that. It just fell so perfectly. So sorry.
They came down to the brewery, had a little bit of a tasting event, sort of, sampled some of our beers to make sure that, we were the kind of brewery they wanted to work with. They loved the beers. Like, yep, we'll go ahead and do the beer. We were like, Sam will do a simple sort of, the beer that came out, basically the sort of the 4.8% Mosaic and Simcoe Pale Ale. Just a gig beer, the kind of beer you can go to a gig and go, right, 3 pints of these, I'm done, I'm happy. And then we were sitting there, and it was just Dougie kind of went, I can do a gig here. Like, what? I was like, I can put a gig on it if you want. It's like,
yeah,
yes.
Okay. So
that is my dream. Oh my
god. So the conversation sort of steamrolled with Frank's people. Turned out he was doing an afternoon event in Manchester on the 8th of July. It's like, cool, he's doing that in the afternoon. You can come over afterwards. All got booked in. We gave away 60 tickets, so 30 pairs of tickets. We had 3,600 people enter.
Wow.
We had space for a few friends and family. We had about 100 people in total sort of on site for it. I'll never forget this point of being stood there. Like, everything's getting set up, speakers are up. We had Pet Needs and we had Berries were supporting, both incredible bands. So highly recommend going to see those guys. Pet Needs have just started to record their second album, and Berries was signed in February of this year.
Berries played, I believe, at Lost Evenings on a really small stage.
Yeah.
When I went on the Sunday, they were playing at the very small outside stage of the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
Because that sounds familiar. Was it a female band?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's who played. They were really good. They were incredibly good. Yeah.
Just for my tour as well, I've got tickets for Berlin next year.
Just honestly.
Anyway. So we were stood there, things get happening, and then we just kind of looked over and just went, "Oh, Frank Turner's just walked in the." Frank Turner's walked.
I would shit. I would be like, "What?" Should we play it cool? Play it cool.
It's one of those things. You're like, I know this is happening, but then when it's actually there, you're just like, "Well, this is just a whole different level." Went through the sound check. People turned up. The night was just incredible. Like 100 people, all there enjoying themselves. I mean, it's the point when I stopped at one point and kind of said to myself, "This is the first time for like 2 years that a lot of people have been together," because it was still during the restriction, but it was done COVID safe.
Yeah. Yes, it was when the restrictions sort of like were eased enough that people could travel, because I know that I could sort of travel from where I am to where you are. Yeah. But it was still very much like it was that first layer of coming out of lockdown where it was kind of like the heaviest of the restrictions while still being able to move about freely. Yeah. But I think the way it looks like you executed it was pretty spot on.
Yeah, so we had, like I said, 100 people there. Everyone, as I just realising that this was the first time that people had been together. Was incredible, and I'm not gonna lie. There was a point when I was stood there in front of my cold store, a pint of beer, just stood watching Frank Turner sing songs at me. And if I'd have stopped, actually properly stopped at any point, I genuinely would have broke down crying.
Yeah,
I probably would have. I'm not a crier, and I probably would have cried. Yeah. I probably would have been like, "Oh my god!" Especially if it was like, if I were in your position, I was like, "This is my brewery. This is somebody that I find." It's like, I don't know about you. Like for me, he's massive. Just, I've always found that he's a person that his music styles have changed in so many different ways, but they've been so amazing every single different way that he's executed it. He's gone, hardcore to acoustic, to a bit more like classic rock and roll, to alternative, to more punk, to everything. And it's always been consistent. And just his lyrics, he's such a lyricist. Like, it is amazing. His backing band's amazing. The Sleeping Souls are so good. And his energy at a show, I have never seen somebody that has more commitment, dedication, and passion for what they do in the music industry. And I feel like that's got to be amazing. You're somebody that's passionate in the beer industry, and you have someone that's so passionate in the music side, and that's come together. That would be so surreal. I would just be like, be cool, don't cry, it's all good.
Then combination of that, then doing shots of tequila with them afterwards. And then at one point we had one of the guys who come down for photos, literally walked to the end of the show and went, "Here you go," and handed me a Polaroid picture of Polaroid picture.
That's brilliant.
So that's framed with the signed set list on the brewery, one of the brewery walls.
For anyone that doesn't know, Joanne included Polaroid picture is a song, so I'm assuming he was singing that song and he took a Polaroid of it.
Yeah, because it was even better. It was the songbook version of Polaroid picture, which I prefer. I mean, I still love the Take the Heart original version, but the Polaroid version with the slowed down beat and the slow drum beat, it's just a fantastic way to end a set list. So having an actual Polaroid picture of Polaroid picture was incredible. But overall, just the entire event was insane. Just I say, everyone who was there was incredible. They drank so much beer. The weird thing was as well. The weird part was as well. Like we had, they went through 2 cases of the Yeti.
Oh wow!
Jeez,
this is meant to be a friendly gig. Some friends. Right. We had some friends come
down.
You
expect sessionable beers are going to be the ones that fly, not the 10%ers.
Got to a point where a few friends who come down and went, "Oh, they're looking a bit busy. We'll give them a helping hand." Stood up and went, "Oh no, we're a little bit wobbly now. We'll just sit here and stay drinking." So no, that night was just nuts. To the point when with the birthday event that we had on the 6th of November, the sound for that was done by Dougie.
Wow, amazing.
He's become a good friend of ours, so he was able to come down and sort that out for us. Again, he's just one of the nicest guys in the world, and it was incredible. So yeah, a combination of getting to have Frank Turner play in the brewery, getting to meet Frank Turner, to get to do all that kind of stuff, and meet all of his sort of his friends
in
and family.
Circle, isn't it?
Yeah. But then it's getting to the lasting effects of that have just been incredible.
And the beer was so like, as you said, the beer was a very sessionable. It was a gig beer. It was so perfect to sit. Like if I was going to a gig, that is what I would gravitate towards, because I feel like you go to gigs and a lot of the venues, they're like, you can have a Foster's or you can have it, and I'm like, no, I'd rather not.
We specifically designed that beer to be a beer that you can go to an event at. So 4.8%, under 5. So you're not, if someone has to drive, they can have a pint of it and they're okay. If someone wants to have 4 pints throughout the course of the night, you're not going to end up shit-faced because of it. It was designed as a beer to drink and be able to have a few pints of and still enjoy the atmosphere.
Nice.
That's exactly what it was.
Absolutely brilliant. Speaking of events, do you have it? Was that the first event actually that you guys had since opening, or had you had events before that?
We'd done a couple of small tap rooms, but that was the first like big proper event with, I say, 100 people. That was insane. We have regular tap rooms. Starting from next year, we are doing from March. We're doing the 2nd and 4th Saturday of every single month will be open from 12 till 8. So you can come down, you can drink beer, you can eat pies that are made from a company called Pullman Jacks, who are based a 10-minute drive from our brewery.
Nice.
And are
I love a good pie. So I feel like, Joe, we need to take this into account when we
Right,
plan our
2nd and
Liverpool
4th.
trip.
Yeah,
We need
2nd
to
and 4th
plan the right
Saturdays.
weekends to go
Yeah,
do.
mind.
They've recently just won a bunch of awards at the Pie Awards in Melton Mulberry.
Oh,
I
amazing.
didn't even know there were pie awards.
Yeah, there's pie awards. Do you not listen to Radio 2?
Yeah, there's they do like a minced steak, onion and Guinness pie that they won a silver award for. They do a salt and pepper cheese pie. They do an amazing chicken and mushroom. Then they also have a range of specials. So
Why
recently,
did you do a pie with your beer?
It's in the works. It's in the works. But for Halloween, they had a Halloween fingers, which was char siu sausage, hash brown, cheese and beans.
That sounds amazing.
We've had a chip shop curry. We've had
I might be able to sell Gordon on Liverpool for that.
We've had a chicken kebab pie with homemade chili sauce.
Amazing.
I'm drooling.
Yeah,
Sounds so good.
their pies are always available at the tap room as well. So there'll be a range of beers that they go, and you can just come and drink in a beautiful little brewery in North Liverpool.
Here we go. That's it. We're gonna plan
Sold.
accordingly so that we actually go when you're open and when you're.
We've got to visit you guys if we're up
because
there.
that'll be what happened. Is like we'll plan it. If we didn't know that, we'd just be like, yeah, it's open any time, and then we'll go. It's closed. Sad time. So yeah, we'll plan it accordingly. We'll get pies. We'll get beers. It'll be all good.
Perfect.
Any other events that are coming up that you want to plug? Any
We-
beers that are coming up that you want to plug? Feel free. Plug away.
Yes, well, we've got, so this is going out Monday. So we're taking over Black Cat Tap Room in Liverpool on Smithtown Road. We're taking over there again as part of our birthday celebrations. We've also just done a recent collab with them, which is going to be a flying saucer beer.
Ooh.
Which does mean I put 1.5 kilos of flying saucers into a beer.
Tori, do you know what a flying saucer is?
I know what it is. I wasn't going blank. I do know. No. I do know what that is, but I was trying to process when you said flying saucer. I was like, what? And then I realised.
Yes.
But I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I've ever
we
had.
did a collab for that bar that's going out. The start of December on the 3rd, we're taking over Beatnik's Republic in Manchester.
Yep.
Taking over that bar. Then we have Black Lodge in Liverpool are hosting their annual Brewers Market, which we're taking over as well. So there's going to be us,
amazing.
Neptune Chapter Carnival, Love Lane, all the local breweries going down.
All the good breweries.
Good vibes.
All going down, selling merch, selling cans, the usual kind of stuff. So you can get all your kind of, either your own beers or your last minute Christmas presents together at the same time. At the same time, that first and second Saturday of December, we're going to be open to the tap room as well. So you can come down and drink beers in the brewery. We'll have gift packs available. So again, you can get cans. We'll have those. We're canning our last beers of the year on the 10th of December. We are bringing back Imperial Canadian Destroyer. We're bringing back Triple H, our Belgian triple. And then to counteract that, we're also bringing back Papa Mango and Shandy Savage.
Oh, nice.
As well.
I love that. Shandy Savage is a brilliant name.
It's just too perfect.
The more I think about it, the more it makes me giggle.
Yeah. We've even got an even better one, is that we're going to take the series in the same vein as the Rowdy Roddy Porter series. And we're going to base other beers off of Macho Man's other things that you've done.
I can't do it because when I think of Macho Man Randy Savage, I saw a Skyrim mod once a few years ago. And it was you just see the intro to Skyrim where the dragon comes out, but before you see the dragon, you just hear "oh yeah" in the background, and then all of a sudden the dragon comes out and it's got Macho Man Randy Savage's head on it, and then it's going "oh yeah."
Love it.
What we're doing is we're planning on, there is a independent tag team from Northern Ireland called Kings of the North, and one of their wrestlers is called Bonesaw.
Nice.
Right.
So if anybody's getting the reference between Bonesaw and Macho Man, which I'm guessing neither of you are.
No. Not me.
No.
Not a clue.
Bonesaw was the wrestler that Tobey Maguire fought in the first Spider-Man in 2002.
Oh my
Played
god.
by,
The level of your
Oh my god, it goes so deep.
which is,
I need to like my brother would probably get all of this. Like he's always been into wrestling. I reckon he'd get it. He'd be like, oh yeah, this and this. And I'm like,
which is
cool.
when Macho Man utters these
Macho Man.
But now that you say Spider-Man, I'm like, yeah, okay, Bonesaw did sound familiar, and I didn't know why.
He utters the famous line of "Bonesaw is ready." So that's our next Shandy beer.
Amazing.
It's so deep.
It's so
Yes.
deep. Right. So final, very important question.
Well,
Have you got hold of Brew York and told them to cease and desist with stealing all of the wrestler names for their beers?
no, because we did a collab with them.
Yeah. It was so
Um,
funny. We saw that I when we were at Bigfoot Festival, they
Yeah.
had their Survivor Series range, and I
Yeah.
went along to their tasting, and they were like, "We can't do any more of these because there's a brewery called Top Rope." And I was like, "Yeah, I was gonna say, like, have you spoken to Top Rope because you're stealing all their beer names? Like, what are you doing?" They were like, "Yeah, we can't do any more."
That made me laugh.
We actually had a friend of ours was at the launch of the Survivor Series beers in York at Brew
Yeah.
York. And the response from Lee and Wayne was, we came up with these 4 and it was really hard. We don't know how the guys at Top Rope do this every single week.
Yeah.
But no, we actually did it was weirdly in February 2020, right before everything kicked off, we actually went down there and we brewed a cherry, lemongrass and kaffir lime leaf sour called Big Red Machine after Kane.
Yeah.
And so we owe them a return leg next year at some
Yeah.
point. And we've got the beer already lined up. It's going to be called Pale Bearer.
Amazing.
Oh, I like that.
So
That's
good.
really good. That
That's
one
so
tickles
good.
me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thankfully, we are very good friends with the guys at Brew York.
Yeah.
So although admittedly they did once get a retweet from Mick fucking Foley.
No.
They collabed with Turning Point and did Milk Foley.
Yeah.
Originally, they got a retweet, which is really annoying because I'm a massive Mick Foley fan.
Yeah, they done you dirty.
They
They
did.
So I will beat them in that game at some point, and I will get a retweet off of Mick Foley.
Yes.
It's funny because I was thinking of asking the same thing, Joe, because I was going to say, because of the fact that Joe and I were both at Bigfoot, and it was funny because she came over and she's like, I just did the Brew York taste, it was really, really good, I had such a good time. And then she's like, but they did say they couldn't do any more wrestling beer days because they
They're gonna get in the trouble with Top Rope. And there's a couple of us out there like, have you heard of Top Rope? And I was like, me, I've heard of Top Rope. They're so good. Don't steal their beer names.
It was really funny because it wasn't in it was in a very playful way. You could tell it was incredibly funny. It was.
Oh, no, that's so. We love the guys at Brew York. We can't say anything bad against them because they're fucking well bigger than we are. But also, they're nice guys and they are amazing.
Yeah. I thought you were just gonna say they make amazing business. I was like, yeah, they do. And then they're like, they're fucking huge compared to us.
No,
like, not why I was shaking my head. I was thought you were gonna go with their beers are great.
but also, you've met Liam Wayne. They are physically a lot bigger than both of us. They're terrifying. I have once seen Wayne pick up a 40-litre cask with one hand over his shoulder. I was like, what?
I tried picking up. We just talked to Full Circle the other day, and I was literally when I was helping them out, I worked for them at Bigfoot, and we were carrying the kegs out in the morning, and they're like, Alex was like, do you want to have a go? I was like, yeah. I was like, please let me try to lift it. And I tried lifting it on my own, and I was like, oh, it's so heavy. Like I couldn't imagine just like swinging it over your shoulder. I was like shuffling around with somebody else trying to do it, and I was like, yeah, probably not for me. I wouldn't say I'm particularly weird. I moved sofas. We moved house. I had to move sofas and beds and all kinds of furniture. Tried picking up a keg on my own, and I was like, how do people do this? This is ridiculous. So that is intimidating. But I've got a really great idea for you. You guys can organise a wrestling match between you and Brew York. You can each brew a beer, and then you can have a wrestling match over it. There's your £1 million idea. There's my brain going.
Yeah, I don't want to die, so I'm okay.
That's it. We can fix it so that the underdog wins.
So that's the storyline that you guys win because you're the underdogs. Perfect.
But Wayne is still an ex-rugby player. His thighs
You
are
get
probably
hurt
bigger than
along the
me.
way. You'll
No,
get
it's
hurt
fine.
Japanese style. You'll get hurt along the way. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Anyways, plug your socials, plug all that. We know we've kept you so much longer. We've kept you double the time we were supposed to, but this has been such a lovely chat. So plug your socials and anything else you want.
Goes. It's simple, just at Top Rope Brewing on Insta, Twitter, and Facebook. I've not tried TikTok because I'm over 30 and it's just not going to work.
Mate, we're on TikTok. Be quiet.
To be fair, the majority of my TikTok has turned into dog.
Yeah,
videos.
you've gone dogs. She's gone into dogs.
Because I can't figure out how to use TikTok.
No, she
So
can't
the
work
dog
out to
videos
do
are the easiest ones. Not that I enjoy watching other people's. I tried making my own TikToks. Yeah, it's not
I get
great.
these really frustrated messages going, why can't I do it?
I'm the generation TikTok is just shit Vine.
Yeah, that's how I feel. But I did try. I did make a valiant effort, and then Joe got my messages of, why can't I cut my video? I don't understand. So I just stuck with dog videos.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
We haven't got a brewery dog yet. I am planning on getting some brewery guinea pigs next year.
Yes, brewery guinea pigs. That's amazing.
And then
I like
brewery dogs
that.
as well. But yeah, it's at Top Rope Brewing on all the platforms, the usual
What's
stuff.
TikTok?
If anyone wants to contact us, it's neil@topropebrewing.com. Send me an email. I'll usually reply within hopefully 2 days. Tori knows how shit I'm replying to email.
No, you're incredible. To be fair, what I will say is when I first contacted you, quite a while ago now, when I was ordering a whole bunch of beer and I was going on holiday, because before that I had ordered beer, but I never needed to contact you because I was home, but I was going on holiday, but I needed to get some of the cold stones that were coming out, because I think I was actually getting them for our podcast, Joe.
I think so. I think you were, yeah.
And I was going on holiday, so I messaged you saying, could you please hold on to these and not send them right away, because you will send them and they'll sit outside, and I don't want them to sit outside in the heat of summer. So you were so accommodating, and you were like, when do you want it sent? I'll just make sure it gets sent, either in time before you go or after you go, because I didn't know how quick your shipping would be. So yeah, you responded very quickly. You were incredibly lovely about it and very helpful. So yeah, customer service, 10
tip top customer service there. I think we ordered something.
I'm not being biased either, because that was before I'd even really properly spoken to you or anything like that.
I think we ordered something and then I was like, I want to put something else in. Is that okay? And you were like, yeah, it's fine. We'll just chuck it in. Like, amazing customer service. If no one's ordered from you, they need to go do it.
It was no hassle. You were very accommodating. Yeah. And we say that as people who hadn't spoken to you before at that point that we asked. So yeah.
Because again, what a lot of people don't kind of realize is the fact that when it comes to operations, there's 4 people that work at the brewery. That's it. It's not like there's some big team that you're dealing with. There's 4 individuals. If you're sending an email to somebody about a customer service issue, it'll be me you're speaking to. Yeah. So yeah, that's all it is. But yeah, feel free. I'm always open to chat to people on social media platforms or on email. If there's a slight delay on social media, that's purely because I've thrown my phone into my bedroom and forgotten about it for an evening, which I do try and do because it does become all consuming.
Yeah, you've got to.
Sit for hours, and I still value my mental health somewhat.
Yes. Absolutely.
So if there is a slight delay on social media responses, that's purely because I'll put my phone away for an evening and I'm not dealing with it. But you will get a response usually within sort of 12 hours or so. No, message me, speak to me, ask me questions. I'm always happy to talk to people.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. It's been amazing.
The time has flown, literally. I was absolutely flown, and then I looked and I was like, shit, it's double the time we said we were going to keep you. So we'll let you go now. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
That was probably the most fun intro that I think I've ever written. It was probably I will hands down say that I think that was my favourite intro.
You wrote it.
Yeah, it's my favorite one that I wrote, because that was amazing that you said that out loud. That conversation was incredible. Welcome. That was the gift that kept on giving. That's my birthday gift. Forget Top Rope's birthday gift. That was my birthday gift this year. I was like, how is she going to read this? How is it going to go down? You did it. You committed.
Of course I did.
Amazing.
Like, you try and test me, but I will always rise to the occasion.
I make myself giggle more than you do, and then that makes me laugh more because you can do it so straight face.
I'm professional.
The outtakes from my end on this one
are going to be great.
Amazing.
They're going to be great.
But I thought that conversation, just like time time flew so quick. But I thought, like, I'm not going to be able to talk that much about wrestling because I'm not. I think a lot of people are drawn to them because of the links between, you know, good beer and wrestling.
Yeah.
And I know a very basic level of wrestling from my childhood. And I've got friends that are wrestling fans. Like, we went out a few years ago in Bristol for one of their birthdays and it was wrestling themed. And that was great. But I was like, oh, well, it's structured. We've got stuff to talk about. I was like, the wrestling stuff, I won't be able to talk to him that much about it. I felt like we talked about wrestling a lot more than I thought that we would talk to him about wrestling. And it just flowed so easy. And Neil's just a lovely human being in general. He's such a lovely, caring, considerate human being. So easy to talk to, so funny. If you've not checked out their beers yet, even if you don't like wrestling,
oh my god, where have you been? Because they make excellent beer
and really interesting stuff. If you live nearby to them, like, go and try that Banoffee if it's still on at all. Or if you're not nearby, request that your local, I mean, we said it with Heist the other weekend, request that you want this in, because it's, you know, the beers that are being bought because they're buying for what they think people want, and if enough people turn around and say, I want this, they'll consider buying it. So yeah, I feel so sad that we didn't get to drink those, and I will go on record and apologize to Joanne about her delivery not turning up. I hope they find the beers, and I hope that if they don't find the beers, whoever has found them, we've given them the gift of amazing craft beer.
We've given you the gift of really good beer, so you better
Merry
go and
Christmas.
put an order in with Top Rope to buy more beer from them. Support your local breweries, everybody.
Amazing. I really enjoyed the conversation, especially the bit that you probably tuned out, which is Frank Turner.
I nodded.
That was amazing. That was an amazing conversation for me as well. So overall, yeah, cannot wait, sorry Joe, to try the chocolate cake.
I'm going to put an order in. I'm just going to have to put another
That's
order
it.
in.
You're going to have to put another order in, and get the porter that I wanted. The maniac that totally went over my head until he said it, and I went, oh shit, that is what it is. So if people want to talk to you about ice cream beers, where can people do that?
If you want to come and talk to me about ice cream beers, and tell me that you found my Top Rope order, maybe it got sent to you, let me know.
No one's going to own up to that. No one that listens to us is going to own up to that,
because I've got your laptop stands. So
if you hold a ransom, if you want your laptop stands back,
if you want your laptop stands back, give me my beer. You can find me. I am a woman's brew on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I mostly hang out on Instagram. But you can also come and talk to me about beer styles and how they make ice cream pale ales at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning. And we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm mostly on Instagram again, but also we're on TikTok and Pinterest. We also have a website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. There's a fantastic blog there, and you can listen to the podcast there as well. And also we have an email address, which is lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Tell us what other breweries you would like us to target and poke and make them talk to us, because we would love to do that. And if you would like to support us to continue to make this wonderful podcast and, try and get beers to the people that they're supposed to get to, we have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/lovebeerlearning. For £2 a month, you can support the continuation of a Women's Brew podcast. Tori Powell, if they want to ask you about, I don't know, Roddy Piper or Frank Turner, I don't know, where can they find you?
Oh my god, yeah, people wrestling. If you try talking to me about wrestling, I'll entertain it, but it won't be a stimulating conversation, because it will just be mostly filled with me being like, yes, brother, and stuff like that. I don't know. Or it'll be memes because I don't know enough about wrestling. But you can always talk to me about Frank Turner. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm just visualizing you writing a ransom note for your laptop stands, like cutting out letters. Like, if you
That's an awful lot of work.
Your stands again, you will return my beer.
I mean, I would do that for the beer.
That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of effort for stands. It's not a lot of effort.
That's true.
For beers.
That's true.
But yeah, I am always willing, as you saw with Werewolf Beers and right now with Neil, always willing to talk about Frank Turner, his music, his new releases, anything you want. His new release, his single just came out a few weeks ago, I think. and it's brilliant. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism. And if you want sweet dog TikToks, because as I said to Neil, I mean, I gave up on trying to make beer TikToks. They're really hard to
You
make
did.
TikToks. Like, I don't understand TikTok. Why can't it just be easy? Why can't it just be easy, guys? But you can see sweet dog TikToks because that seems to be all I can manage at the moment. Yeah, I'm on there as well at Adventures in Optimism. Don't even remember if there's underscores in it, but search me, you'll probably find me. Who knows? But yeah, that's me done. And
Okay.
until next time, Joe.
Cheers.